I have to say it is really good to be back. I've been missing everybody. I wish I could say it was like a fun vacation, but it really wasn't. Except, I did go to convention, and so that was pretty cool. I did enjoy that. That was a wonderful treat. All right. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is just that International Women's Day is coming up this Friday. So March 8th, I believe, is International Women's Day. I asked Jeremy to play a video for us in honor of this, if he's got it queued up. He's so good under short notice because I had this all planned out, but I forgot to email it to him. And so that's what I was doing, like the beginning of service. And
International Women's Day. International Women's Day takes place every year on the 8th of March to celebrate the achievements of women worldwide. The day is also used to recognize women who've made significant contributions to the advancement of their gender. International Women's Day was first celebrated on March 19 in 1911. 1 million women and men rallied in support of women's rights on that first International Women's Day. The United Nations officially supported International Women's Day to reflect on progress made, to call for change, and to celebrate acts of courage and determination by ordinary women who have played an extraordinary role in the history of women's rights. The 100th anniversary of International Women's Day in 2011 resulted in many celebrations around the world and brought a lot more attention to International Women's Day. Recently, the world has witnessed a significant change in society's thoughts about women's equality. Many from a younger generation may feel that most battles have been won for women, while many from the 1970s know that, unfortunately, women are still not paid equally to their male counterparts. Women are still not equally present in business or politics, and globally, women's education and health is worse than that of men. However, great improvements have been made. We do have female astronauts and prime ministers. Schoolgirls are welcomed into university. Women can work and have a family. Women have real choices. And so, each year the world inspires women and celebrates their achievements. International Women's Day is an official holiday in many countries, including these here. The tradition sees men honoring their mothers, wives, girlfriends, colleagues, with flowers and small gifts. In some countries, International Women's Day has the equivalent status of Mother's Day, where children give small presents to their mothers and grandmothers. So, make a difference. Make every day International Women's Day. Do your bit to ensure that the future for girls is bright, equal, safe, and rewarding.
all right. So one thing that I found interesting when I was perusing different videos to see which one to share, one that I came across, it talked about how women are 50% of the population, yet all of recorded history, about 1% about women, historically. And you see that that's changing, and one of the videos talked about we honor the founding fathers of our country. Wonderful. What about the founding mothers? There's a lot unseen that it's time to just to celebrate those that nobody has done this alone. We are all in this together, and I know myself. If anything that I ever did that I accomplished in my adult life, if I didn't mention how my wife has been a driver and a support and an inspiration, I know I couldn't have done anything with her. So to all the women, this is all Women's History Month, and then Happy International Women's Day on Friday. So thank you. Thank you. All right, so this is how we've never done it. We have that other saying, that's kind of the excuse, like, well, this is how we've always done it, and that's our excuse to kind of just keep going along with the status quo while we simultaneously complain about how things are. And we're sometimes, sometimes a little afraid of actually trying something new. But, we have this grand rising as our theme for the year. And then Centers for Spiritual Living, you'll hear this phrase often. We are creating a world that works for everyone. And we mean everyone. But do we stop and imagine, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because the first time, everyone, cutting out there, it really resonated with me, and it held with me for a couple years until after a couple years, and then I started to wonder, like, well, wait a minute. The world that works for everyone, what I'm visualizing, that's the world that works for me. Does that work for everyone? I don't know. But that's how thought expands. And that's our opportunity then. Because one thing that we teach in the science of mind, maybe the most important thing, is that everything begins in mind, in thought. Everything begins as an idea. And so if we want to truly create a world that works for everyone, we have to put some time and effort into imagining what does that look like. That's what starts the wheels of creation in motion. When we talk about the creation of the universe, it didn't just begin and in 7 days it was done, like it says in the Bible. It's still going on. That 7 days is still happening. 7 days is metaphorical for an eon of time. And so constantly creating. I don't know if I did earlier. It was green, so we should be good. But if it cuts out again, I'll jump back in on that one. I completely lost my train of thought. Thank you. So we are constantly creating, but it requires intentional thought. And if we want to see the world that works for everyone, we hold this vision, we imagine, we visualize, and we can do affirmations, we can do prayer, spiritual mind treatment, knowing that we're creating it. But the thing that we also have to do is we have to act on the inspirations that come. If we want to see things change, we have to change individually the way we do things. And sometimes, we get in this idea of a world that works for everyone. It's a huge idea. And so when we look at ourselves as an individual, what can I do? How am I going to create a world that works for everyone? And so we kind of just hold to that vision, but then we don't necessarily change anything ourselves. We kind of sit back and just, knowing that we'll hit this critical mass when things will shift and the world will start to work for everyone, not realizing that it's constantly shifting into what we are creating all the time. And so that's our power that we have. So one thing that I thought I would kind of guide us through just to get an idea of the power that we have. So right now, just taking, a conscious breath. Just breathe in with me. Just recognizing that breath connects us to life. It is essential for life. And as we bring our attention to it and our awareness, it connects us and reminds us of that presence that's within us. I'm just going to turn this one off. Switch to the podium mic. At the core of our being is that presence, and breath is the key to open it up and to remind us of what we are. So as we're focusing on that presence within, focusing on how it connects us to everything that is, allow a gentle smile to come over your face of just knowing that in this moment, everything's okay. The core of who you are is untouchable. It can never be diminished. It can never be added on. Now, with that gentle smile on your face, as much as you're willing, with the uncomfortability of it, turn and look at somebody sitting around you and just, with no words, just offer that smile. And then turn to somebody else and smile again. And receive the smiles. So in that simple act, right there, we just made the world a better place, literally. When we see somebody smile, our bodies physiologically change. It releases a chemical in our body. Our body's constantly making new cells, and when we're making new cells and smells, but when we're making new cells in our body, the energy and the consciousness that we're holding informs the cells that are being built. So every time that we elevate our emotional vibration a little bit, it's creating a different timeline, a different path. We are constantly shifting this world of consciousness. And when we can see that beauty in somebody else, the concept of namaste, the spirit in me recognizes the spirit in you, then we could love them anyway. As Ralph says, we are all here, and every single person, there is nobody on this planet that is unessential. Quantum physicists will tell us that all the quantum particles, the smallest elements, all of it, energy cannot be created, cannot be destroyed, it only changes form. That if one tiny infinitesimal quantum particle were to be eliminated, the whole system would collapse. There would be no system. Every single thing that exists is essential. Every single human being that exists is essential. Whether we agree with them or not, it's all essential, and it all blends together and creates our world as it is. And we are doing this together. So the more times that we can remember to look past the differences, to recognize that which is within each of us, we are tapping into a deeper field. And that's truly how we create a world that works for everyone. It's one person at a time. And through that, like what we just did now, that's power. We can take that out into the world. We don't let the world tell us what is happening out there. We don't let the world dictate what I am going to vibrate at. And that's truly power. So if we want to create this world that works for everyone, we have to do things different. If we want to see a change, we have to be a change. And to whatever degree we can do that. So this month, getting rid of the excuse of that's how we've always done it and moving into that's how we've never done it, I'm going to give you a quick kind of synopsis of what we're doing. So this week, we're just talking about embracing a new day, creating a new day every day. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to acknowledge the past and at that same time, disentangle from it. Our past does not dictate what we are moving forward. We have power to constantly create anew. So we recognize the past, we can take our strengths from it, and at the same time recognize that that's not us. What we are is that deeper essence within. And we all get to play these characters that we play, but we are that deeper thing within. So then the third week, we let go of the need to figure it all out. When we do our spiritual mind treatment and affirmative prayer, we hold what the vision is of what we're creating, but we let go of the how. If we try to dictate how it's all got to come about, then we're stepping into God or spirit, the realm of creation, which isn't our job. Our job is to hold that vision and just know that when we hold to it, the how becomes apparent and shows up through inspiration, shows up through intuition. And so that's what we're called to do in week 3. And then the week 4 is just to really ground in this truth of who we are and who we're becoming. Because we truly are, every single one of us, individualized points of that one consciousness. And sometimes we forget because life can be hard. Life can be challenging. Sometimes we feel like we don't have influence, like we don't have any control, that the world all is out there and it's all happening to us, not recognizing the power that we have just by the nature of what and who we are, that we are the children of that infinite. As one of the earlier master teachers, Jesus, constantly said, I am the Son of God and you are the Son of God, that we are all the children of that infinite thing. And so that's what week 4 is to really remind us of our deeper nature. And then week 5 is something that I think we need to do all the time. And that is just to remind ourselves, it's a journey. It's not a destination. I think, one good example of this. So the last time I spoke here was 2 weeks ago. I had 2 Sundays off, so I guess technically 3 weeks. And it was right before this period of Lent started on Ash Wednesday, which was also Valentine's Day, which is also the day that I had the surgery done. And so my goal was to inspire people to take a practice for the next 40 days, choosing something that they could let go of their lives for the 40 days of Lent, however you want to practice it, and to help with that, to help let something go, incorporate something that we can replace with it. And I said I would check in and let you know how that's all going for me, because my goal, my intention is to let go of scrolling the news. In my idle time, I just wasted away frequently of like, well, I've just got to wait 15 minutes for this. I'll just look at really what ends up just being garbage on my phone. And so what my replacement was going to be, or is to pick up one of the books. I've got stacks of books that I've been wanting to get to. I've got the books that I have to read, and then the stack of books that I would like to read that stack never really gets touched. And so that was going to be so anytime I have a desire to do the scrolling, I'm going to pick up one of the old books. It's kind of like what Mike Tyson says. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face. And so that was my plan. And I was, going to begin Ash Wednesday, but I'm like, no, I'll start now. So Sunday night, I went home, stuck to the plan. Monday was good. Tuesday was good. Wednesday, come home from the surgery. I was like, I got punched in the face. And my plan was no longer what it was going to be. I tried. I was like, okay, here I am wanting to scroll again, pick up a book. And I just couldn't. Like, my mind is not focusing. It just focuses on the pain. And even to watch Netflix kind of mindless entertainment, I'm not there. And so where I'm going with this is that this is the power of setting that intention and the direction and letting go. I talked about it at the beginning of the new year. Instead of a resolution, something that we have to stick to, it's a direction that we're moving. And so what has come out of that 2 weeks and that intention that I said I would check in with you on, I did manage to get one of the books, and it was a short one. It was about 50 pages, checked off. Yeah, so it was a small thing. What my original plan was different. I've created what my allowance was going to be of how much time I could scroll, and then I would stick to the other. But I just had a hard time. When I had the surgery, on day 5 is when Cheryl and I had to get up very early in the morning and drive to Charleston, South Carolina for a convention for CSL. I don't know if that was the best idea either, to hop in a car for 12 hours. But all of it combined, I'm going easy on myself because I feel like while I was not able to stick to what I intended, I did read one book that wouldn't have been read if I had not made that plan and that intention. And so that's what I want to talk about, is the power of just doing one thing outside of what we normally would have truly creates a new world and a new path. It shifts what our reality was. We can have our intentions and our beliefs and what makes us who we are, and we go about the world trying to be the best people that we can, and that's good. But where power of creating new change comes is from stepping even beyond that into doing something that I wouldn't have normally done otherwise. And so if I hadn't have set that intention, I wouldn't have had to read the one book, so that was a win. And at that same time, it's an intention, and it's the 40 days is not up yet, and so I can draw back on it. But in the past, what my habit would have been is to feel like I failed, and I probably would have given up for the rest of that 40 days and be like, well, I'll get it next time. Next year, I'll try again, and I'll do it. But that's the idea of that this is a journey, not a destination. And every little thing that we do that just shifts our world, shifts the other world, it all adds up. And that's how we create the world that works for everyone. This isn't done or going to be done by people sitting in the White House or by people sitting in the UN. That's not where the true change comes from. It comes from individuals. And that's why I love Centers for Spiritual Living, is because we know that our thoughts have power, and they start to create shift. And then where that power truly comes in is when we start to do things a little different than we do. So, envisioning a world that works for everyone. Does that sound good to everybody? Do you all have your own kind of personal idea of what that might look like? I want to encourage us to sit and contemplate it, and then start to ask, like, okay, so who might not agree that the world I visualize is working for them? And this is where, contemplation is a practice. So just letting yourself sit and daydream and ask those questions, then I can come up with ideas in my head of like, okay, yeah, so maybe my vision wouldn't work so well for this group of people. So how would it? How can I tweak my vision a little bit that maybe it would work with them? We start to consider the needs and the desires of others. And it's a contemplation process. And so as we're planting those seeds, the universe shows up and starts to give us the ideas. And so that's where the practice comes in, is that what we do repeatedly, what we tell the universe is important, what we tell our subconscious is important, it opens doors and it opens intuition. And so the more that we spend our time contemplating that world that works for everyone and asking the questions of what it looks like, how could I see it differently that'll help other people's world that works blend in, because I have no doubt that we have everything that we need. And that we do have the capacity to truly hit what everybody needs in this world. Because what's beautiful is we don't want the same things. And it's to where we kind of had this idea of competition that makes us feel like if I get what I want, that means somebody else has to lose what they want. Not realizing that not everybody wants the same thing, and that we can shift what we do and what we bring about. So this week, I want to remind us that we are all that individualized point of consciousness that is God, and recognize the power that we have. So each day, creating a brand new day. Ernest Holmes has a quote in the back, and Ernest Holmes was wonderful at writing affirmations, and he says, I rise to meet the new day, filled with confidence and strength. I rise and go forth into the dawn, inspired and refreshed by the living spirit within me. So Linda, I loved your reading and your practice, the bookends of the day. That's what this week is asking us to look at. The themes for CSL Global is to wake up each morning and recognize, like, what are we telling ourselves? Are we waking up saying, like, oh, it's another day, I have to go to work or do whatever, I didn't get enough sleep, I feel tired? That's one way to start the day. Or we could wake up and say, I'm breathing, I'm alive, I get to go to work, I get to go do other things in life, and I am going to make this world that works for everyone, starting with myself. So I'm going to hold that highest vision for myself. I'm going to affirm that I am infinite power of the universe, and I'm going to carry that with me. And then on those days when we wake up and we just don't feel like we have it, remind ourselves it's an intention. And sometimes just to get through the day that you're in is exactly what the universe needs from you, exactly what you need. So compassion for ourselves and compassion for one another. And some days I'll hold that light, and other days others will hold that light when I'm unable to. But starting here and where we're at, this is where the shift happens, one day at a time. So Ernest Holmes, teaches us that we're always in evolution. All things, at all times, are constantly changing. We adapt to changes in nature. We create change by inspiration. Animals, nature, it just happens. But where human beings are unique is that we have the capacity to direct the change, the ability to choose how and where we want to evolve. That is moving us into alignment with co-creation that I know that we are. So when we talk about the qualities of God, when we do spiritual mind treatment here, we remind ourselves that spirit is infinite, that it is joy, that it is abundance, that it is all the things that we like to experience more in our lives, and we are that. So every time that we remind ourselves of that, we start to create that world. This is not a pipe dream. I have 100% faith that we are creating that world that works for everyone. And again, it's not that destination. But if we look back over the times of history, thinking about just like the 1% that was written about women of all this time, I'm guessing a large portion of that 1% was written about women in the last 100 years. Like the shift, creating a world that works for everyone, it's happening, and it has been happening. Sometimes it's hard to see because we focus on the painful stuff. We focus on what media tells us to focus on, which is what sells for them and gets viewers. But if we look back at statistics, if we look at history, at times of war, right now, at this time in our history, we are living better than, as a collective, than we ever have. Of course, we still have a long ways to go, and there's still a lot of people, a lot of sectors in society of people that are still being marginalized and still being pushed out, and they're raising their voice and saying, please, hear us, we need change. And so we constantly listen and aspire to change, and we speak up for ourselves where we see change is needed, and it constantly is creating that world that works for everyone. So as we choose as human beings to consciously evolve, our goal and our homework for the week, if I need to come up with a better word than homework, our growth exercise, our growth joyous opportunity for spiritual practice is to wake up each day and remind ourselves who we are, that we are magnificent and that we have infinite power. And then to start to act in that way, making something different in our lives, knowing that that is exactly how the world changes, and it's the only way that the world changes. So the spiritual principle that I want to celebrate this week is love. I have to flip my hand now because I don't have my other hand, but love with a capital L. That's my thing that I talk about pretty much all the time, because it is the one force in the universe that is all forces. It is the driver, it is our energy, it is our consciousness. And so when we remember that that is what we are, it makes it hard to not show up from a place of that. So I'll read it for anybody that can't see it. It says, love is the self-givingness of universal spirit through its desire to express itself in terms of creation. Love is the impulse, and law is the way of creation. So love is where that inspiration comes from. And when we draw ourselves and remind ourselves that we are that, then inspiration, intuition starts showing us how to be that and how to create more of that in our universe. And it can begin every single day. Each day begins anew. When I feel like I falter one day on what my Lent intention is, the next day is a brand new day, and I can make a shift. And I do as best I can, and we will all get there. So our spiritual practice then is intentional manifestation. So every intentional act, anything that we do outside our normal way of being, with love as our direction and our goal in mind, creates a new world. And I don't want anybody to think that that's a small thing. It's easy to think of that when we have 8 billion people in the world and we're all standing around waiting for the world to shift into that thing that we want to see, not recognizing the power that each and every one of us has. So when we set intention to do things differently, the world does change around us. So our affirmation for this week, if you will join me in reading this, it says, I seize this day, embracing its unlimited possibilities. We're only limited by our own imagination. Amen. So with that being said, we're going to have a fun month. We're going to look at new ways that we've never done it before, because that's the only way to create something new. So with that being said, let's take it within and just recognize. Right now, again, just allow yourself a conscious breath. That breath connects each and every one of us. It reminds us of our extension of that one infinite life, of that one infinite love with a capital L. And that there is a new way constantly unfolding on this planet, and it is through conscious thinkers and doers that this comes about. So as we do our individual work, as we rise each morning to remind ourselves of who we are and where our power lies, we are creating that world. So I affirm and avow that each person is an extension of the infinite mind, that each person has available to it intuition and guidance and strength and courage and love and compassion, joy and abundance. And each and every one of us, as we move forward, through the intention, through knocking on the door, through inviting that deeper presence to use us, to work through our bodies, to reach out, to share smiles, to just know the truth about ourselves and about each other, that this world continues to unfold in ways that work better and better each and every day. So I give thanks for this feeling of life that pulses through me, as I feel it connecting with each and every person here, with each and every person hearing these words, as it reaches out beyond all these to everybody on their own individual, unique paths, that we are all returning to that which we come from, whether we are doing it by conscious choice or not. So I give thanks for that. I give thanks for knowing that Spirit carries me and informs, guides, and brings me the inspiration. And I give thanks for that same impulse that is within each and every individual out there. And I give thanks for everybody who has set their intention to move towards more love, more light, and more compassion. Because that is truly how the world changes. So in deepest gratitude for all of it, for the law that takes our inspiration from love and makes it our physical reality, I say thank you. And knowing that the new dawn is upon us every single second of every single day. Each new breath is a new choice and an opportunity. For that, I say thank you. So I release these words into that infinite knowingness where in the mind of God, it is all done. It is all whole. It is all perfect. It is all complete. And it is our gift to receive and our gift to give, to let it unfold in that divine blueprint. And we affirm that this is happening by saying, and so it is. And so it is. So thank you.